Morning everyone, my name is Audrey. My floss tube channel is stitchywitch42, and that is where I talk about cross stitch, life, the universe, and everything. But today, this video is going to talk about another craft that I like to do, and that's paper crafting or journaling. These are the tools that I'm going to be using today to start a series, if you will, of a project that I am working on for some coworkers. I want to make a folio style journal for them. What do I mean by a folio style journal? This is a folio style journal. It's made from a manila folder, and by folding it I can create pockets. I can add paper in here. I have another little section back here, and that's one that I made. This one is another one. A third one, because if you know me, you know I like Harry Potter. And then I also created the same style for making one for our adventures when we go in my husband's 48 Willys Jeep. And again, they're all basically the same things. They can be decorated however you want. But I'm going to show you the basic steps today on how to turn this manila folder into a folio journal. So I use a pencil. I use a pair of scissors. Make sure these are not the good ones that you use to cut your fabric with. I use a craft knife. I like my X-Acto blade here because on this side I have a wheel that locks the blade. I can move it out and I can lock it to whatever length I want if I go the right direction. And the blade won't move. But then I unlock it and I retract it, and for safety, always make sure that your blade is down when you set it aside. And I use a ruler. And of course, my manila folder. Now, if you have a scoreboard, you can do this too. But when I started doing my journals several years ago, I didn't have a scoreboard. So I used my cutting mat underneath here. And I'm going to go back to basics today with this. So here is my manila folder. It is a standard size manila folder. What I am going to do is I am going to determine the height of my journal. And I like 8.5 inches. So I line up my journal here on this edge. I take my ruler and I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5. And for me, I like having my ruler upside down and using the cork side to hold it. My X-Acto knife, I am not going to extend the blade, but this edge right here makes a really nice scoring tool. So I'm going to hold this in place and I'm going to score down this side. I'm going to flip my folder over. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5. And you can see I have a scored line. I hope you can see that I have a scored line here. So I will open my journal, and I'm going to turn it upside down because I think I get more in frame with that. And I'm just going to take my fingers and crease that edge out. When you don't have a bone folder, your scissor handles work just as well. I just want to make sure those two creases are nice and sharp. So, manila folder, count down 8.5, score both sides, fold it up. These are going to be pockets. Next, I need to determine the width, and I let the manila folder determine that for me. On your manila folder, you have a short side, which is generally the front side, which means you have a longer side for the back side. You want to work with the back side for this. And you want to take it and you want to bend it over, but not sharply. And I take this edge right here and I try to put it about 1/4 inch away from this fold right here. I'm matching up my side right there, and I'm going to press down in the center and out. And then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to crease that line again. This has now determined the width of my Folio style journal. And it works out to be about 4 3/4 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4 3/4 inches. I turn it around so I've still got this folded edge here, and I'm now going to use this edge to crease my front edge right there, and then I can fold this one in. I'm trying to work between tripod legs, really hoping that I don't hit them and knock them over. But I have now creased that edge too, and if you want to get technical, these are not exactly even. I'm okay with that. So, manila folder, go down 8.5 inches, score it, fold it up, open it, take the back side, fold it in. Like I said, I leave about 1/4 inch, and that determines the width. I use the edge of this one to score this line here, and then I can fold that down, and I have the width of my journal. Down here where I'm going to make those pockets, it's all rather bulky here. Like I said, this is a manila folder. So I want to take some of the bulk out of that, and to do that, I'm going to take my non-fabric scissors. Am I still in line? Can you still see me? I hope so. And I'm just going to cut a sliver of material away up to where I made that crease. And then I just pop it off. That much fabric, that much of the manila folder. It's not very thick at all. I'm going to do the same thing with the next one. Again, just taking a sliver of the manila folder off up to that crease, and then popping it off, and doing it on the last one too. These don't have to be perfectly straight. In my world, they never are. So now, if I open this up, and I don't know how much you can see, because again, I'm working underneath a tripod, I have my folder that's been folded and now has been cut. This one will get folded up to make a pocket on this side. That will get folded up to make a pocket on that side. That will get folded up, and this will get folded up. And then when you close, basically you have the basis of your Folio style journal. Now, of course, I have to add some things to it, because what I like to do is on the inside of this front piece here, I like to make this a long pocket. And I'm going to have to pause you for a moment because I forgot to get my second manila folder out. Okay, I have a whole bunch of these. When I was first starting these, I decided that I was going to order some manila folders to start my crafting with, and I ordered a package of 200, but I ordered the legal size, which is much bigger than the standard size. So I use the legal size ones for cutting extra material that I'm going to use for pockets in my folios. This is also really good stock for being the basis of a tag for your journal. I also use them when I'm playing with die cuts because it's just a good weight and it's a neutral color and it works well. So with this folio here, this edge, this one right here, I want to make a pocket that is the same length as this, has the same curve up here, but not necessarily this curve. I want it to go straight across there. Now since I have another manila folder here, that has the same curve there and will actually work. Can you see that? So what I'm going to do is I am going to measure. I'm not a pro at doing this. Again, I use my mat board underneath. I need 2 3/4 inches at that little notch right there. I'm going to grab my scrap piece here. I'm going to line that up straight. And I'm going to draw an edge there. I know the length is 8.5 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.5 inches. And I'm going to cut out this piece of material here. I'm cutting on the inside of my pencil marks. Pencil marks won't matter because by the time I'm done with this, everything will be covered with something and you won't see them. And again, in my world of journaling, exact edges are not important. So if I open this up, that will fit right inside there. The edges are almost perfect, or the corner there, the taper is almost perfect. It's going to leave a little bit of a area there that I will be able to get into. And for now, this is the basis of my folio style journal. So let me set that aside. And then I'm going to show you how I cover it. When you are covering the front, back, insides of your folio style journal, you can use whatever you want. This is paper from a package that I bought on Amazon. It has several different neutral backgrounds that could be used, and I glued it down and I stitched around it. You can use digital printables. You can use tissue. You can use paper of any sort that you want. What I want to do on the journals that I'm making, the folio journals that I am making, I want to use a grocery bag. These things There is so much paper on these things, and it's a good thick paper, and it holds stain really well, and you get a lot of paper from one bag. So what I do for this is I very carefully remove the handles. And I even have an idea that I got from somebody else that I watched. I will be using a handle later on in my folio journal. But for now, it's in my bin. And I'm basically going to deconstruct this bag. For me, the easiest way to do it is to cut the bottom off, all four sides, and I'm not cutting very much off at all. The chair I'm sitting in creaks a lot, and every time I move you probably hear it. I swear it's not me having bad gas. When I get to the sides, just cut them both off like that. Getting my scissors in there. Remove that. Oh, I have notes by Folgers and eggs. I don't need those. So I have a brown bag here. On the back of the bag, there is a seam here. I simply cut that seam out. I don't want it. And I know that I can't show you how big this is, but this is a nice big piece of material to work with, and it will more than cover my folio the way I want to cover it. What I did after I cut them down is I took a variety of mica sprays. Tim Holtz Distress Mica Stain. I've used Iron Gate, Antique Linen, Gathered Twigs, Hickory Smoke, Brushed Pewter, Decayed, which is a lovely green, and Wicked Elixir, which is also another green. I'm making 6 of these journals. I wanted them to be similar, but I wanted them all to be different, so I took different combinations and I just sprayed them all over the page, and this is what I ended up with from one bag, and this is what I will be using to cover the folio style journal that I'm going to show you today. So, I have one already made up for me. I'm going to take one piece of these, and the first thing that I like to do is I like to trim up that edge right there, simply because it's a bent edge, and it makes, if I start with a straight edge, it will make it easier to do my measurements. When I am using my craft knife, I hold it like this style anyway. I make sure that I'm holding my ruler down and I have my fingers out of the way. And when I am cutting, I'm always watching where the blade is at so that I don't cut my finger, and I retract it before I set it aside. And that is something that I have taught myself to do over and over again because I don't want to cut my fingers. So right now, all I'm doing is trimming my pieces. so that I have a straight edge. It does do stuff like this when I'm at corners or sections of it, but this gives me two straight edges to work with. The first area that I want to cover is the front of my folio journal. I know the dimensions is 4 3/4 inches wide by 8 1/2 inches long. So again, I can use my grid here. I had to make a slight adjustment to you so that I could use my grid marks. 1, 2, 3, 4 3/4 inches. When I'm going over the edge of the paper here and my ruler doesn't go from edge to edge, I use the dots on my graph board below it to keep track of how straight my ruler is. Again, holding my ruler down, applying pressure, starting up at the top, watching my blade as I come down. And I'm not going all the way to the bottom because I don't need to go all the way to the bottom. Turn it, line up my papers again. This time it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 1/2. And I didn't quite come down long enough on that side. So I'll just extend that cut a little bit. So this is going to go on the front of my journal. Yes, it's got a little bit of a ding up there. I don't care. This is a junk journal. And yes, if you look at it, I did not quite get all the way to the edges. None of them are perfect. But when I do this, the edge that I want to make sure that I get closest to is the leading edge here. The rest of that can all be covered up with inks or stains or some other sort of decoration. One of the colors of distress ink that I'm using is called pumice stone. Because this is made from a paper bag, and because I'm making these for coworkers, if you know me, you know I work in a grocery store. That's why I'm liking using the paper bags to cover these folios. But I want to enhance the creases, and I decided that I wanted to use the pumice stone because it's dark. And all I'm going to do is just make a light crease across each of these. It's just me adding, I don't know, an element to it, accentuating the fact that this is a paper bag, if you will. And then I can set that aside and that aside. I use a glue stick. This is Scotch Create. It's a permanent glue stick, multi-purpose. It's photo safe. I heard recently that it's not being made anymore, which is a darn shame as far as I'm concerned. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to line the inside of this. I am not going all the way to the edge because just like this journal, I will be sewing around the edges. So I'm going to bring this down. I'm going to line up my opening edge. And I'm just going to cover it. If it comes up a little bit there and it's bothering you, run your glue stick underneath there press it down. One of the things that I found when I'm working on this, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm covering the right side of my manila folder, is I will use the manila folder as my template on the paper bag, but I have to remember which side I'm covering. So this piece here is going to be this inside pocket here. This is the side I want to cover. And I have done this backwards more times than I can think of, but if I want to get the same shape on my paper bag here, I have to do this with that side up. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to line it up here along this top edge. It doesn't have to be exact, because I can trim it or figure it out, but I'm going to trace that little curve there. I'm going to trace this line here and right there, and I'm going to cut this out using my scissors. But because of where I'm at on my desk, I have to hold the paper so I get the reflection from my light on it. Because believe it or not, graphite disappears into the colors that I have used on this paper bag. Cut that little corner there. They are never exact, ever exact. Highlight my crease, just because I like to do that. And then when I put this here, it lines up pretty darn good. So, glue stick on the inside, but not all the way to the edges. Again, because I will be sewing it. And part of the reason for not gluing all the way to the edges is so that the glue doesn't jam up your sewing machine. With a glue stick, you do have a little bit of time to smooth your piece of paper out on that. And you can see I missed part of the edge there. It's okay. All of that can be covered or left or inked or whatever to make your journal. And now you can see where it'll go on the inside here. There'll still be a little area that I can get into to access that pocket. And I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing. Like I said, I got the back done. I'm short on it, as I always am. This is the spine. It will be covered. The top, add washi tape. It's a junk journal. Go easy on yourself. These two I'm going to be doing next. So again, I have to prep my next piece of paper here. Get rid of my edges here, and I'll be back. Okay, I want to cover this one. Try and do this without knocking over my tripod. Yet stay in camera. I'm going to put my bag inside here. I'm going to line that edge up. Take my pencil if I can find it. Again, draw my lines, and I'm doing this on the inked side of the paper bag because I'm going to be covering this side. This style of folio journal really doesn't take long to make. You can have all the fun decorating it that you want. But right now the whole idea for me is to get all 6 of these covered, because I am making 6 at a time. And then I can start on making the things that are going to go inside them. So this is going to go right here. Again, you can see an edge right here where it doesn't quite cover. It doesn't matter. It's a little bit too long here. So I'm just going to cut it, strip off. I'm not going to worry about inking this fold here because it's going to be covered by that pocket. Mark made an adapter for me for the tripod. I use his Canon camera to record my videos. He made an adapter for me that holds my camera in an overhead angle. But that means when I use it that way, I have to be very careful that I'm not hitting the legs, which are here and here. Because I really don't want to have the camera come crashing down on me. Okay, that one's done. I now need to cover this one here. So I'm going to do the same thing. Take my paper and fit it in there, and that cut I made on this, I can't stress enough making sure that you've got your paper in there tight. Trace my shape. And cut it out. Most grocery stores now are charging, what is it, 10 cents a bag if you purchase a paper bag. You can't get this much paper for 10 cents anywhere else. And again, because it's a nice heavy paper, it makes a good medium, in my opinion, to use. Basic shape, test it out. Again, it's a little bit too long there, but it's really good, a good fit otherwise. Cut off a narrow little strip, glue it down. Doesn't take long, people. So I've been watching a lot of videos here recently on people who do journaling and getting a lot of ideas, and I've been thinking about starting this project for my coworkers for some time now. I've been collecting things from the store because I figured since we all worked at a grocery store that they would get a kick out of some of the things that I'm going to be using in these folios. I've collected receipts, I've collected the coin wrappers, various other things. Little bits like this I will hold on to because I can use that in some of my projects. It doesn't seem like much, but it is. Okay, I have this one to cover, this one to cover, that one to cover, and that one to cover, and we will be done for today. So, I know some people when they are doing their journaling, they're all about having all the tools, and if you can afford it, you can. I have bought several things over the years. Some I think were a waste of time to get. Others Well, the inks are something that I will spend money on because without them, what are the options of what you can use? Well, you can use paints. You can use eyeshadows to color your papers. Anything that has a pigment can be used to cover. Again, you can get digital images and you can use those. And you would be doing the same thing that I'm doing right now, just cutting and piecing to cover your bits. And the thing of it is, all the corners on these are going to end up being rounded, but I'm not going to do that until I have everything covered, because that way when I round the corners, they will work so much better. When I first started making these, I tried to cut everything out first and then line it up. And yes, it worked, but I could have done better. So for these pockets, I want to make sure that the top line, the top of the pocket, matches more than the bottom. Again, the bottom can be covered by ink. And as you can see, I am trying to make the most use out of my paper bag. I'm going to have a lot of it left over. Again, I have ideas for what I will use that for inside of the journals, but that's a later video. I am thinking of labeling this video and any that follow it as my Folio journal part 1, part 2 until it's done. So if you enjoy these videos, I would really appreciate if you would like and subscribe to my channel. Again, my main channel, this is on my main channel. It's like a sub-series on my main channel. I'm stitchywitch42 and I do cross stitch. Always check and see if I've got a good match in size. Do my gluing, not going all the way to the edge. Line up my top edge and then smooth it out. Oops, I went quiet. When I watch the people who do regular journaling videos, I'm amazed at how much they can talk while they're working on their projects. I sometimes forget to speak because I'm concentrating on what I'm doing, and also because this is not the type of videos that I normally do. So bear with me when I get quiet. Get the glue on there. One thing I have learned, just like with the craft knife, you want to make sure that you are keeping it in a closed position when you are not using it. You want to do the same thing with whatever type of glues that you're using, because it will mess them up if you don't. I found that out the other day when I left my glue cap off of this. While it still worked, it was a weird kind of tacky. Okay, so I've got the inside of this one to do. Line that up there, line that up there. Another thing that I have learned about keeping this and my other craft separate is because I am working with inks, and all the distress inks are water soluble, which means that they get on your hands and the inside of my fingers look kind of greenish and glittery right now. I don't want that on my cross stitch projects. So I make sure to not go from doing journaling straight to doing cross stitch without washing my hands really, really well. The edge of this one needs to be trimmed just a little bit, and for that I am going to use my knife. Get the blade out, lock it. Just the tiniest little sliver coming off. Hold my ruler down, watch where the blade is at, retract, and get it out of the way. Like I said, in the process of making these, I have learned that I kept trying to cut these pieces out of my paper backwards so that the wrong side was going to end up on the visible side of the paper. So I have now learned myself to double check and make sure that I've got the right side of my paper bag up. So I was recording and my batteries ran out on my camera, and I don't know how much of it was filmed until I get into the editing process. But I have this covered as far as I want to cover it for now. I've got the front cover, I've got the back cover. Again, I'm not worried about having things not fit completely. I have the inside of this. I have this pocket covered. That page, this pocket here, if it's sticking up a little bit, I can take my glue stick and put it back down, because I am going to cover or stitch around the whole thing. That might need to be trimmed. We'll take care of that later. I've got this done, the front of that pocket done. I've got this one done, which will be added on later. As you can see, it doesn't cover this leading edge here. Washi tape will cover that. One of the last ones that I did here, where I didn't have enough to cover the edge of this, I just put a piece of washi tape there. Here, on this side here, where it won't be covered by the pocket, I just put a piece of washi tape there. That will be my next step in the process. And I'm getting all of these to where they are at the same point, but these two back sides right here have not been covered. I'm then keeping all the extra paper bag that I used from a particular journal together. I've still got all of this left over, and all of this can be used for other pieces in there. And I will just store that in the journal until I'm ready to use those. That way I have all the same matching paper for this journal, and right now I currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. I have one more to cover. This is my first time really trying to create a journaling video this way. I don't know how coherent it was. If you got any value at all from this, I would really appreciate you liking and subscribing to my channel. I am stitchywitch42. I will make a playlist for any videos that I record for these folio style journals until I get them complete. Until we meet again, my friends, live long and craft on. Bye-bye.